Hello, everyone. This is James McDaniels, and I welcome you to another week of the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. As always, I am your host, and we have got another great show on tap for you guys today. So, lots to talk about today for what has happened this week, or maybe I should just say the last few days, because we've had All-Star Weekend in the NBA. And last night, the NASCAR season, after months of waiting, has finally kicked off for 2013. So we have got a lot to get to this week. So let's get to it. So I want to start with NASCAR this week because I haven't been able to talk about it a lot. NASCAR this year is going to be really awesome. I can already tell you that because if you have seen the cars that they have brought out, they look gorgeous in my opinion. I mean, they really look like really sleek cars. I mean, it didn't change the stock car a lot, but it definitely did make it look, I think, a little bit prettier than I guess past years have been. But that's just one aspect of NASCAR. I mean, last night we had the Sprint Unlimited. So basically, we had 19 drivers out of a possible 22 that could have gone in and did it, that raced in the Sprint Unlimited. Now, for those who do not know, the Sprint Unlimited used to be called the Budweiser Shootout, and that's what everybody still kind of really knows it as. Basically what it is, it's a 75-lap non-points race between drivers that have previously won the event and drivers that won poles during last season. So for this year, for example, all drivers that had at least one pole in 2012 season, plus any other driver that was eligible because they had won the event before, would be able to go in and basically compete in the race. So that's basically what the event is. It only like I said, there was only 19 drivers that started out the night. So I remember when they were talking to Tony Stewart at the beginning, and like I said, these cars are changed. I mean, the look might be nicer, but how do the cars handle? That's the big question. So when DW made his pre-race call into one of the drivers, he talked to Tony Stewart, who had won the event previously and seriously dominates Daytona. He's won like what seems like way too many Daytona events. I think they said it was 18 or something he had won in total at Daytona. So I mean, and in any series, that guy can like dominate the race course and figure out and be aggressive and all that. So anyway, they were talking to him, and Tony Stewart was like, they were asking him, how's this car going to handle and stuff like that, and Tony's like, well, that's kind of hard to say because technically we don't know how these cars are yet. We need to kind of see how they race and stuff like that. He's like, we really won't know until we really get a few laps under our hands here and really race with it. We just got to get a feel for that because if anybody tries to go on too early, then something could happen. Well, I think Tony Stewart kind of he said exactly what he meant because he actually on lap 15. All right, so we're in the first segment still of this race, and he goes and tries to take a pass to go to the lead. He thought he had clearance. His spotter did not give him clearance, but Tony went anyway. And Tony ended up getting sort of not spun, but it made it look like he was about to spin out. His car went sideways, his sparks flew up, but he was able to save it. But in NASCAR, and especially at Daytona, when you see something like that happen, the next thing you know as a driver is that everybody else in the back of you is going to start piling up because they're reacting to it, and it's just going to be a chain reaction, and that's what happened. I mean, there was a huge wreck in the corner of Daytona, and it involved like what seemed like half the field. I mean, let's see, Denny Hamlin was in it, Kyle Busch was in it, Mark Martin was in it, Jeff Gordon was in it. A lot of good drivers were taken out just on that wreck on lap 15, and they still had 60 laps between the rest of segment 1 and segment 2 and segment 3 to go. So, I mean that wreck took out a good portion of the very small field, and like I said in previous weeks, that fan voting was going to decide basically how many tires and how many cars were eliminated, and the segments, and Miss Sprint Cup her suit. Well, the way the fans voted on it was that they voted to have all the cars have 4 tires on the first pit stop. All cars would have to make a 4-child change after the first segment was over. And then for the second segment, there would be no cars eliminated. And I actually think that was a good thing because like you already had 7 of the guys like totaled out and gone, so now you only have like a 12-car field. So it's like good thing they didn't eliminate anybody because you want a good race. So anyway, the race played out basically like regular. Nothing else really big happened. So down to the final lap, and Kevin Harvick's out front. He's playing. Oh man, Kevin Harvick on that last lap, he had to do so much blocking to make sure he stayed out in front. There were guys that were drafting up on him, and he just moved right in front of them at the right time, got the push, stopped their momentum, and was able to play it just right, and he won the Sprint Unlimited. The 2013 Sprint Unlimited champion was Kevin Harvick, and it was a pretty good finish. I mean, if you are a really good driver, you know how to safely maneuver between the drafts to be able to keep yourself out front. So that shows that Kevin Harvick's a really experienced driver, and I think it's a really good boost for him going into the Daytona 500, because when you win one event at Daytona, then you can feel like you can win any event at Daytona. Because when you're at Daytona, Daytona's a game of knowing how to draft, knowing when to pass, when to go up, how to avoid the big one. I mean, there's a lot of things to it, and it seemed to me that everything went quite well last night. I mean, Kevin Harvick did get the win, but you got to realize there was only one big wreck, I'd say. There was only one big accident, and other than that, there wasn't really much. So you kind of get the feeling that the guys are figuring out how to handle these cars. Of course, when they leave Daytona and they go to the more mile-and-a-half tracks, half-mile courses, of course, they're going to have to learn a little bit there. But like they said last night, like DW and the rest of the crew said last night, that these cars are so different in a way for handling for these guys that they would pretty much have to forget everything that they learned in previous generations of cars. Because in Generation 6 cars, you can't bump draft in the corners. It's not I mean, you can, but it's very dangerous. I guess you could say it could definitely cause a wreck. So that's why you saw a lot of guys last night not bump drafting through the corners and only bump drafting down the straightaways, because they really don't know how the cars are going to handle with that. Until the drivers get really experienced with these cars, I don't expect them to see bump drafting. So I don't expect bump drafting to happen in the corners, that is, in the Daytona 500. But I bet when the guys come back to Daytona middle of the summer for the Pepsi 400, if I'm correct, then I think the drivers will have enough experience with these cars to where I think they will bump draft. And not only in the straightaways, but they'll do it in the corners as well. So that's my take on the NASCAR race, the Sprint Unlimited last night. Kevin Harvick, your winner. Big one early on lap 15. Took out probably 6 or 7 cars at least. And pretty good night. Very happy that NASCAR is back. And we got a great season ahead. Today is qualifying here very soon. And next week, we will have the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. And, of course, the starting group for that will be determined by qualifying and the duels. And for those who don't understand how the qualifying and duels work at Daytona, basically today's qualifying, only the top 2 qualifiers will really count in this qualifying. The qualifying today is just simply to try to qualify for the top 2 spots. If you're third and back, it's not really going to matter. The only 2 guaranteed spots are the top 2 qualifiers. And then the rest of the lineup is decided with the duels and everything that comes up during this week, which we call speed weeks. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So during speed weeks this week, this is when they will get the rest of the lineup. But today, the only 2 guys that are guaranteed for the Daytona 500 will be the pole sitter, which is the fastest guy, and then the second fastest guy, which is second place. So it'll be very interesting to see, and I cannot wait. So let's get on to the NBA action over in Houston for the All-Star Weekend. Oh man, lots of things that have happened so far this NBA All-Star Weekend, from the talks of the Kings to all the competitions to pretty much everything that happens during All-Star Weekend. I mean it's crazy. They've got competitions for everything. They've got they've got the skill challenge, they have the 3-point competition, you have the dunk contest, you have the rookie showcase with the rookies and sophomores. You have the Rising Star. Well, no, the Rising Star Challenge and the Rookie Showcase is the same thing. Sorry, but they also have the Shooting Stars Challenge. There we go. And so let's get into pretty much all those events and talk about what happened. So I'm gonna start with probably my favorite All-Star event, which is the 3-point competition. And definitely was a very good night for Kyrie Irving. Of course, we all know him from Cleveland and his great rookie year. And now he has a 3-point contest victory under his belt. And I mean, that's just one good accomplishment for this guy. And you can tell that he will be having a great time in many years to come. So basically, here's how it went down. In the final round himself, he scored 23 points. And that's actually 1 point shy of the event record. And then so anyway, Kyrie Irving himself, he put on a classic show. I mean, like I just said, he almost broke a record. So when you can almost break a record shooting threes from 23, 24 feet away and being able to hit the basket, I mean, and put it in almost every time, it's just incredible. I mean, these guys, they work so hard on these strokes, and they're just so automatic when they get going. It's you can't stop them. You can't hope that they're gonna mess up, because when you get on a roll, you're just not gonna mess up. And for those who don't understand how the round of points happens in a round of the NBA 3-point competition, they basically have 5 racks put around the 3-point line. There's one in one corner, then one on the side, then one in the top of the key or center or whatever you want to call it, and then another one on the other diagonal side, and then one on the other baseline. So there's 5 racks, and each rack has 5 basketballs, 4 of which are regular-looking Spalding orange NBA basketballs, and then the final one at the end of every rack is what they call a money ball, and it is red, white, and blue, as our great nation is in its colors. And that ball is worth 2 points. Now, the rest of the Spalding balls that are orange are worth 1 point. So, because there is a total of 6 points possible, because there's 4 Spalding balls, so 1 point, 1 times 4 equals 4, plus the 2 points from that money ball is 4 plus 2 is 6, so then that's 6 points for every rack. And since there's 5 racks, then that makes a total of 30 points. So the max you can get in the 3-point competition is 30 points. So for those who didn't know how they scored the 3-point contest. That's how they do it. But man, I'm just telling you, Kyrie Irving's going to be something in the near future now that he has the 3-point competition owned, and it shows just how much of a player he can be. And if he can shoot like that during NBA games, I would not leave him wide open from downtown at all. I mean, at all. He had a good competition from Matt Bonner, who in the final round he scored 20 points. So Irving scored 3 over Bonner in the final round to win the event. But Bonner actually set the pace at the beginning with 19 points, and that edged out Anderson and Curry. So it shows that you don't have to be first in the first round to win the competition. You just have to be in the running until the final round and then be first in the final round and then just take the cheese from there. So, yeah, that's pretty much it from the 3-point competition. And I am super stoked to always see about it, read about it, and then hopefully next year we'll get to actually see it, because we don't have TNT around here, so we can't watch these kind of events. But let's move on to the skills challenge, and let's go to another young player by the name of Damian Lillard. Now, this guy, whenever I see him with Portland, he is just one of those guys that is so good at at how it's supposed to be played, that it just amazes me what he can do. He can do pretty much everything. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass off, he can get rebounds. He can do anything you really want him to do. He's fast, he's young, he's got every aspect you want of an NBA player, and this guy's going to be one great player one day if he's not already not. Or if he's not already. So let's go with how he did this in the skills challenge. So basically, what the skills challenge is when a player has to do multiple things, including like passing through a circle, dribbling around statues of fake basketball players, doing a layup, shooting a jumper, pretty much showing every skill aspect of the game. Like passing and shooting and dribbling and speed and quickness and everything else you can think of. And then of course whoever does it in the fastest time wins. So this is how it went down. Basically, Damian Lillard beat Drew Holiday by 5.8 seconds in the final round, and that's how the final segment went down. Now, as for the total time of Damian Lillard, he had 29.8 seconds. Now, that's pretty fast. 29.8 seconds to do everything. You have to be pretty much spot on with every time. But he was pretty fast all night. I mean seriously, he and all the rest of the guys. When you go into the skills challenge, okay, you have a lot of talent that is on the line, because you have to show, like I said, everything that you have. And for Lillard to come out and show that kind of talent, it doesn't surprise me, but the fact that he won it at such an early age is also quite interesting, because then you've got, Drew Holiday, that also is a very good guy, and he finished up with a very quick time of 35.6 seconds. But still, it's always great to see it, and along with the win, Lillard he won a $25,000 scholarship from the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Houston, and he won it for a young man named Poppy Simmons. So not only did he win the event, but he also was able to win a scholarship for somebody. So when you're doing when you have an event like this where you're showing off your skills, but yet at the same time you're winning for somebody else, it really means a lot. So I think that was a great idea that the NBA put in that scholarship, and I hope it just continues on every year. But let's move on from the skills challenge, and let's get on to probably the favorite event of any NBA All-Star Weekend, the Slam Dunk competition, where the best guys ever slam dunk their best slam dunks that they possibly can, and try to win over the judges and make scores and everything to wow the crowd, I guess you could say. So, like always, there's always some crazy dunks that happen. I mean, they just keep getting better every year. Of course, we all remember that long time ago, Michael Jordan, he made that one dunk, that very iconic photo, and everybody loved it. Well, everybody just keeps getting better and better every year now. I mean, there were ones where Terrence Ross was putting it through his legs, and then there's just, the slam finish at the end where, that throwdown factor that gets everybody off their feet. I mean, let's see. In the first round for Ross's first dunk, he actually paid tribute to Carter. He donned his jersey while throwing down a 360 off an alley-oop from the side of the backboard. So that alone is a pretty good way to start out the night, because just think, you have to time everything perfectly. Just to jump 360 is hard enough sometimes for some people, and then to jump 360 and put it through the hoop is even harder. But then you do it where at 360 you do it from an alley-oop and you have to time it perfectly off the backboard. I mean, that's really hard, and that's just the first round. So when these guys, like this Evans guy and Ross, when they go hardcore, they're gonna go hardcore, and they're gonna put up something, spectacular. And then another dunk Ross did, like for example, Ross did another dunk later in the night. He pulled off a 360 behind the back dunk that tied him with Green for the lead after one dunk. So, I mean, there's just a lot of dunks that happen that are just simply amazing, and that's why everybody loves it, because these guys are doing something spectacular while having a major finish to what they're doing. So, I hope that Terrence Ross might throw down this authority. I didn't know he had such authority. In fact, I never even heard of him. And then he just comes out and wins the dunk contest. So that'll be very interesting to see him in the future and to tell if he can continue to throw dunks like he does, because, like I said, I'm not able to watch these events, but still, I can read what they did, and it astonishes me that these guys can dunk like the way they do. And then, of course, you have YouTube and stuff where you can go and see their dunks, and it's very spectacular what they do. So let's get off dunks. So now we've got some. So now we did dunks, the skills competition, 3-point competition. Let's get on to a very hyped event: Team Shaq versus Team Chuck in the BBVA Rising Stars Challenge. Okay, so like I said, Rising Stars Challenge, Rookie Showcase, kind of the same thing. So basically, Team Chuck dominated Team Shaq 163-135. So tons and tons of offense, and the MVP was Fareed. Fareed, we all know him from Denver, and he did an astonishing thing during the night. I mean, he's from Morehead State, and he put up some amazing numbers. He's put up 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 of those were offensive. And because of that, he had double-double. And then from the field, he had 18 and 22 shots, and he even drained a three-pointer. So he was doing very good all night. And I mean, we also had some very good guys that also played during the night. We Kyrie Irving was on Team Shaq. He did well. Isaiah Thomas from the Sacramento Kings, he did well. He scored a double-double at the end of the night. So basically a lot of show of offense, not a lot of defense, but still, when you can show off your dominance like that, put up 40 points and notch a double-double with rebounds and hitting nearly all of your shots like Fareed did at the end of the night, then you can't really get any better than that. So Kenneth Fareed definitely deserved the MVP, which he did. He did receive it, so I'm very glad for him. And definitely it shows just how much talent the NBA has in its very young players. So finally, the last part of what we saw over the weekend was Dominic Wilkins. He led Team Bosch to a Shooting Stars win. Now, the very interesting thing about Dominic Wilkins, I think we all were able to view at some point the half-court shot Dominic Wilkins made during that competition. Half-court shot looked pretty, and Dominic Wilkins, even being at the age of 53, he was still able to show he had not only accuracy, but he also had power, too. So now Team Bosch had a winning time of 1 minute and 29 seconds. 1 minute and 29 seconds, and they were able to beat Team Westbrook and a few other teams as well. And they also say the worst shot of the night had to go to Horry. I think we all know Robert Horry and stuff like that. The retired 7-time NBA champion whose first try at a half-court shot barely hit the backboard wide right. So there wasn't a lot to see during the night, but Dominic Wilkins proved that he can still do it with Team Bosch, and they were able to come away with the win over Team Westbrook and some other teams as well. So that was the Shooting Stars Challenge, and that's pretty much your NBA All-Star Weekend. So now today, of course, we have the NBA All-Star Game later today, and that should be quite interesting. Of course, all the NBA All-Stars, there's not a lot of defense that goes on in that game. There's just a lot of crazy offense that occurs. You've got all the regular NBA All-Stars in that game, and like always, it's going to be quite entertaining to see what happens. And then, like I also said, also to watch today, the NASCAR Daytona 500 qualifying is today. Danica Patrick was actually the fastest. Could you believe that? Danica Patrick was the fastest in practice yesterday. So, anything can happen. Anything can seriously happen at Daytona, even though everybody's putting their foot on the gas 100% of the time. And that's one other thing I have about NASCAR was their website was down a lot during the last day or so. The race view and stuff was off. I guess they're making changes, or there's some error going on or something. I mean, NASCAR posted on their Facebook page, they said, quote, we recognize and apologize for the issue experienced on NASCAR.com tonight, particularly with the live leaderboard, logins, and race view. We are working diligently to resolve these issues before the qualifying races. But then if I go and type in NASCAR, the page does not come up. It just says Internet Explorer cannot display the web page. So NASCAR site is still down, but hopefully they will get that fixed very soon. In our other news, there's a lot of speculation out there right now about what happened to that one I don't want to say Paralympic Olympian, but basically that Olympian that made history. I cannot think of his name right now. Who he basically has prosthetic legs, and he ran the Olympics. Not the Special Olympics, but the regular actual Olympics. So the guy, okay, I have the guy's name. I have the guy's name now. His name is Oscar Pistorius. Oscar Pistorius, the guy that has two prosthetic legs, and he ran in the Olympics, not the Special Olympics, but the full-fledged Olympics. He actually got arrested for murdering his girlfriend. an Olympian like him who brought so much spirit and hope to a lot of people, and now he's arrested for murdering his girlfriend. I mean, he even cried in court. I honestly don't think he. I honestly don't know too much about the case, so I really can't have an opinion on it. But I'm just saying, if it turns out that he did do it, it's very sad that he had that side of him and everybody who loved him and everything of that sort, and now this happens to him. But another thing that's happening today, and this goes back to the NBA, was today is the day that Michael Jordan turns 50 years old. Of course, Michael Jordan, probably the greatest NBA player of all time, in the NBA Hall of Fame, on the list of some of the greatest athletes of the century, some of the on the list of the greatest athletes in Northern America, 20th century. I mean, this guy. I mean, so many times an All-Star, and so many times he scored, so many dunk contests. I mean, and even in pop culture, he was pretty big with that Space Jam movie he made back in the '90s. But he's just one of those guys that, all you can do is praise him. I mean, he does so good. I mean, he's not that great as a GM, like I said in a previous recording, with the Charlotte Bobcats, but I tell you, he is one of those players that you can never forget because of all the authority, all the great times, all the money he's put towards charities, and all those moments that he has with fans, and all those NBA moments that he had. You just can never get him back, and all the accolades that he has upon him. I mean, not even Kobe Bryant or LeBron James have as many things as Michael Jordan has, and even though Michael Jordan probably has good competition for the best NBA player ever with players like Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Larry Bird, you just sometimes always have to go back to Michael Jordan because of everything he's done. So I praise the man. He did very well in his life, very successful life in the NBA, and I can't just wish him the best of luck to live many more years of happiness and giving charities and being around the NBA. So that just about does it for this week 4 NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour episode. We'll bet you back with you next week. Next week I will actually wait till after the Daytona 500 so I could talk all about that next week, and then the NBA will get back rolling again. We'll have maybe an update or two more on the Kings. I was actually planning on talking about that because it was spoke about a lot at the NBA All-Star Weekend so far, but ran out of time. In fact, we're a couple minutes over our time, so I'll talk about that next week. So until then, I will see you later. This has been the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. This is James McDaniels, and I'm signing off. See you guys next week for another great show of the NBA and NASCAR Power Half Hour. So long, everybody.